A lot of the public doesn't know what to do during drought season. What do you do during the cold? Is it good to plant during the summer? What do you do?
Like you're immediately building trust inside their house.
Someone can kind of tap into that space. And does it end up with results? Sometimes not, but you don't know if you don't try.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the Mo Money, Mo Problems podcast, where we talk all things green industry. I'm your host, Matt Foreman, and today we got a very special guest with Alex Barth of Tropics in Sarasota, Florida. Alex has helped grow that business from a small team into a major operation. So I'm really excited to talk to him today. Thanks for being with us today, Alex.
Absolutely. Good to see you.
All right. So I'm very interested. Have you are not the owner, but you're a major player and you've helped grow the business to what it is. How did you end up at Troy's Tropic?
Sure. So, yeah, I actually started with Choice Tropics in 2014. I had a great relationship at the time. I had my own company. I would go in there and buy plants from them. I was a workaholic working 7 days a week trying to build the business. I just ended up in a conversation with the owner. He actually approached me and said, I don't know if you would ever be interested in starting a landscape division for our company. And at the time, I didn't have much work, family balance, and I had a kid on the way. And so I kind of weighed the options that I could be contained a little bit better. And so we had a conversation and we came up with some terms. And so I just jumped right in and started a landscape division for the company. And at first it started real small and then it exploded soon after. So.
Awesome. So originally, Troy's Tropics was just a nursery. Is that right?
Yeah, just a small nursery that would cater primarily to the retail public in the area.
Okay. Awesome. And so the nursery's still up and running today. You now have two divisions, right? You have the nursery and the landscape division. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, actually, in 2023, bought another nursery that was going out of business a mile down the road. That was 9 acres. So we expanded to two locations and started serving commercial contractors and getting deep into the wholesale business. Basically started pushing plants out there to contractors, small landscape companies, even other nurseries throughout actually the state of Florida. We ship plants anywhere, from Orlando up to Jacksonville and all around Florida.
Okay, awesome. So you introduced the new landscaping division. How was that? I mean, you went from a company that I would assume prior did not do anything in terms of landscaping, obviously still in the green industry, but
Sure.
you introduced a new operation. What did that look like? I would imagine you had to add an entire team, crew, machines, trucks, all that stuff. How did that first introduction to those operations look like for you?
Yeah, at first it started very small. I was using my own vehicle. We had a trailer, and then we had one dump truck, and had a team of about 4 people. And we started to hit the ground running. I had to go out there and not only sell, I had to close on jobs, be a part of the jobs that were working, and basically, get things established and get our name out there to the public that we were now into the landscape business, design and installs. And so over, the course of a year, 2 years, we added another truck, another truck. Now we're up to about 6 to 7, full dump trucks, trailers. Had to add some tractors and loaders on there, and we just expanded and took off into a quite a large landscape division now with about 28, 30 employees offering multiple services from landscape design, landscape lighting, irrigation, hardscaping, just all of the above.
Amazing. So you guys have a competitive advantage that a lot of landscapers don't have in that you have a physical location, even if it's just that nursery. Are you using that nursery as like a base of operations for the landscape division too?
Yeah, so basically at our grow location, we keep all of our landscape assets down there, equipment and trucks. And then at our large retail and wholesale operation, we have a big landscape office central location where the public can come in, ask for consults. We meet with them, go over designs and things like that. And so you have it really established. It's a really nice central office house that we had totally redone. And it's pretty amazing to see the progress.
That's incredible. So as of right now, is that primarily your major source of, like, new work that comes in? I would imagine, obviously, you've built a reputation in the area, but, I'm sure you can probably once people come in and they're like, "Okay, you're more than just a nursery, you actually do the installs, you do so much more than that." Is that really contributing to the growth of the landscape division, having that nursery and having people come in?
Absolutely. You can't put a price on having a physical brick and mortar location where the public can come in, talk to someone face to face, see designs that we've done previously, meet with designers, meet with consultants. So we do get a lot of that. Now, the one thing that does set us apart from other companies is our reputation is solid in the local area. So people actually reach out to us because they've heard of us. We've done their neighbors' houses, we've done houses in the community. So now, because of our name, people will come in and looking for us rather than, not sure what they're looking for. So that's been a real great, source of increased income. They will see the same customers every few years wanting to revamp and redo their landscaping. And then obviously their friends and neighbors know the quality of work we do. So that, contributes to the leads as well.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so I've heard that you have been pretty dialed in with, your Instagram marketing too. You've been getting leads from that. Is that for nursery, landscaping, both?
Yeah, we try to do, all the divisions and get exposure on Instagram and Facebook. What we found is, it's pretty amazing to see the ability to reach a wider audience when it comes to social media platforms. That's how our wholesale business has grown as well. Being able to offer the services out there, reach a wider audience, it's been, the results have been tremendous. So we put a lot of effort and time into what we do in our social media platforms.
Now, is that primarily through just regular posting, and maintenance of the social media account? Are you also running ads? Are you boosting posts? How does that ultimately, like, how are you managing your social presence?
Sure. So we actually do a lot of boosting. We do a lot of reels and stories because people want to see progress. People want to see what it's like and what's going on in the business. And so we put a lot of effort into that as well, like before and after photos of landscape jobs, real-time walkthroughs, and just kind of showing what we're all about through those channels.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can imagine that has a really good competitive advantage, especially when you think about, like, some big box stores, that also have a nursery. They're never gonna have that personal touch that you and your company, and that neighborly feel. So I think it's always gonna be really important, especially when you're kinda competing with a big box store, a franchise, whatever it looks like, to let your community know that, like, "Hey, no, we understand you, we understand the area in which we're in, we're real people, and we would love to meet you." So,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's amazing to hear. How long have you been focusing your efforts into social media?
I tell you, it was around COVID that we started to put more emphasis into our social media. When we went into the wholesale business in 2023, we really hit the ground running with expanding out our territory in the social media realm and really getting, professional and really just being able to reach the public and show them what we're all about. So we put that concerted effort in that starting in about 2023.
Gotcha. And I would imagine it's probably not an overnight success. I mean, any sort of marketing or efforts, I mean, take some time to ramp up, scale up, build that momentum. Would you say that you have a pretty dialed in process now whenever you're making content or posting?
We do, yeah. We try to stick with what works. We want to not only show the scope of services, but show what we're doing in real time and what we have, like, for example, on sale. There's hot items that we can put out there. So yeah, it's been very good, and we put a lot of emphasis on what we do on social media. I think you can't put a price tag on the reach that it actually does for us. So we've been very happy with our efforts.
Amazing. So one of the things you said is your current title is part of your title is that you're the expansion expert. So
Growth and
I know you
expansion.
just got the new location. What does that ultimately mean? Like, what does that look like in your day to day as it relates to expansion?
Yeah, so what we're looking for is new opportunities all the time. So as far as growth and expansion, growth of the nursery business itself, reaching people that are outside of the county as well, people that need plants and are looking for certain items for projects. We're able to help those individuals or companies get what they need in a timely manner. So we love doing that. We love not only helping the people in the county, but even outside of the county. Not everyone has the ability to tap in to the market as a whole. We all know that the majority of our landscape plants, a lot of your tropical foliage is grown down in Homestead, and it's a maze down there. It's hard to navigate. It's hard to find reliable brokers and nurseries to consolidate material and get it to them in a timely manner. So that's where we kind of take over in that sense. If we need to source from several different nurseries, or we need to pull from what we grow, we're able to do all of that and help the individual or company achieve what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. Um, another thing, and I'm wondering if this also helps with that. So you are you're a great personality. I mean, you said you've been on news stations and everything. How does that happen? Like, was that strategically done? Do they approach you? Do you approach them? Is there a thought and process behind that?
Yeah, well, a lot of it's, I think at the beginning, I reached out to news stations and I kind of put ourselves out there as an opportunity to be the face of anything gardening and landscaping for, the news channels that want to segment that. We do a segment on the Suncoast View, which is ABC 7. They showcase, they want to do segments that involve the public and educate the public in everything plants and seasonality of things. A lot of the public doesn't know what to do during drought season. What do you do during the cold? Is it good to plant during the summer? What do you do, during hurricane season, things like that. So we can answer a lot of those questions and be the face of that for the public at mass.
Yeah, that's such a smart thing, and I know that there are so many, lawn care and landscape business owners out there that would never have even considered that. But I mean, if you think about it, the people that are watching that are probably homeowners, and you're immediately building trust inside their house. You're helping them with information as it relates to the services that you offer. I think it's just a massive untapped potential for so many people that, yeah, I mean, it just makes sense. So, like, what does that look like now? Like, do you have some sort of, like, relationship with anybody at the news station? Do you have any recommendations on how somebody could potentially get into that space where they end up getting interviewed by a news station?
Yeah, well, for me personally, once I started doing the ABC 7 and the Sun Coast View, you develop relationships with the people that are there. So now they just lean on us to whenever there's anything plant related, they reach out. I don't necessarily need to reach out to them anymore. They know that they're going to the local plant expert that can come on, explain things in an easy way for the public to understand. Recommendations for other people is, always try to be bold. Always try to, closed mouths don't get fed. So if you are not doing anything about it and wondering how to get on, you're not going to get on. It really takes a concerted effort to try to reach out to, someone like a news station, say, hey, this is who I am. This is what we offer. If you ever need me for a segment, reach out to me. And, that is probably the way that, someone could kind of tap into that space. And does it end up with results? Sometimes not, but you don't know if you don't try.
Yeah. I want to pivot a little bit, and you brought it up briefly about educating people on this, but I'm very interested in. So in October of 24, I know you guys just location wise probably got smacked by Hurricane Milton. What does that do for your company? I'm like, I would imagine there's obviously, like, the devastation of what happens, but I could imagine there's probably also a lot of opportunities. Like, walk me through, like, how does that ultimately, like, everything's said and done, I'm sure there was probably plenty of flooding and down trees and plants and people calling you. What does that look like for your business?
Sure. Hurricanes are always scary. We've been through a few of them. And, it's all about preparation at the nursery, first and foremost, but it's being ready. And our landscape division is so big that we're able to transition into cleanup efforts when it comes to hurricanes. So for Milton, for example, Chesapeake Key and a lot of the coastline got inundated with water, massive damage, and we position ourselves to be ready to first and foremost help the public get cleaned up. A lot of things needed to be removed. We had to do a lot of different cleanups. So we kind of focus all our efforts on helping people get to a neutral playing field again. Then comes the re-landscaping efforts. So then we transition back over to going out to individuals' properties, assessing the situation, seeing how we can do things and make things look great again at those properties. So we kind of transitioned over to that, and that helps tremendously when people know that they can count on us. They can count on us for not only the cleanup, then you beautifying the landscapes and making sure things are done right, making sure the irrigation is checked, installing new irrigation systems if needed. Obviously, a lot of the landscape lighting infrastructure was damaged. So then we're even able to help them on that side of things and just get the property back to a place where it looked better than it even did before the hurricane.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's I can imagine. That's just such a hectic time. I mean, so I too am in Florida, so I just don't have to deal with the side of the business where I mean, you're working around quite literally what gets devastated. So I can imagine it's an important thing to one, build the trust, but maintain the trust, especially when people are in many instances probably at a low of the lows following a hurricane. So no, that's amazing. What's you mentioned obviously you're doing like the landscape design and build and you're doing hardscaping too, right? Does that also include like drainage and everything like that?
Yeah, yeah, you have a big focus on drainage. People oftentimes need swirls. They had issues with water on the property. So we're going to go in, assess situations, and help them figure out what they need to do, especially with drainage projects.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you do not do recurring maintenance, is that right?
We actually do. We have a
Oh, okay.
large wellness division where we
Great.
not only mow, but we care. So we'll have customers that want us to mow and care for the landscaping. Our maintenance division first started out, we would do a full design, do everything on the property, and they would have trouble finding someone adequate that would do beyond the mowing scope. So we
Sure.
realized there was an opportunity to care for maintenance or for care for the plants, and now we just do full service property management essentially, where we are those guys that come through and make sure your property stays beautiful. Your investment is protected from the time we're done with the landscape design install and into the future as well. We get locked in with those customers and they'll just continue to bring us back month after month to make sure the property stays amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe you can share an experience with this, but I mean, I always see some owners, obviously the profit margins on a lot of design build projects can be much better than some of the maintenance, especially if you got a lot of crews you got to manage. But I always think and I see this often is those that maintain a property, as soon as somebody's going to want any sort of landscaping services, in most instances, they're not going to be searching around for it because they already have that person working on the grounds. And so we see so often that, okay, well, those maintenance jobs, while probably not the best of margins at times, could lead to a massive project that is essentially just handed to you because of the quality work and the relationships that you build and maintain doing the maintenance.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, just the fact that they see our trucks in the neighborhood, the neighbors see us, on our routes doing multiple houses, residential and even commercial. They're able to say, to themselves, okay, you see these guys day after day, let's give them a shot. And it really helps just being there. It's not, you're right, it's not a high margin endeavor, the maintenance of properties, but it opens doors. You open one door, it opens another door and you're able to really capitalize on that. And it does establish our relationships with that customer long term. So you're exactly right what you said. When it comes up and it comes time for them to do a revamp of the landscaping, We're the first ones that they're going to talk to because the trust is already there. It's established, and we're working on the property on a regular basis anyway.
Yeah, and so was that when you came on and put together the landscape division, was that a day one thing where you started offering maintenance, or was that something that you thought about and added on later down the road?
We did it about, I would say, 6 years into the landscape division. We started kind of approaching customers, telling them we could take care of everything but the mowing and weeding. So we encourage them to keep their current lawn guy. We would go in and take care of, more complex weed situations, the trimming of species, the fertilizing of species, and that's where we kind of started. And we kind of built that maintenance division. Then when I transitioned over to the nursery side of things, and as we opened up a new location, I then became a part of the nursery operations, and then a colleague of mine took over the landscape division. He took it to the next level. He brought in mowers, and we started to really capitalize on the maintenance and property management side of things. So it really was, it experienced quite explosive growth in that realm.
Yeah, and that's just some great advice for everybody running any sort of green industry company is that you don't have to be so locked into your services. Obviously, yes, be great at what you offer, but there's still additional opportunities, even if it's 6 years down the road, that could lead to bigger opportunities for your main source of income, which in many cases for our landscapers, is design and build side. So I know that obviously it's a lot of logistics for you. The company, when you came on, was probably significantly smaller, and it seems like you've grown to how many employees do you guys currently, employ at the moment?
Well, we had about 15 employees when we first started between the
Okay,
nursery and the landscape division, and now we're about at 100. It's
amazing.
quite the operation going on now. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does that look like in terms of the management of all these people? Obviously, it wasn't an overnight thing, but how do you manage a crew that large? Like, what is a day-to-day operations in terms of keeping the team all doing what they're supposed to be doing, the different divisions? Obviously, you have the nursery, you have the maintenance side, you have the design build side. What does that look like? How do you approach that, either week by week, month by month?
Sure. Well, communication and relationships is everything. So you want to stay involved with your employees. You want to be able to encourage them, lift them up, make sure they're okay, and give them a vision of the future. And
Mhm.
the opportunities where they work are up to them, and they are endless. You're not just going to stick as a laborer. You're not just going to stick as a foreman. If you put the work in, put the effort in, we want these employees to know that the room for growth is there, and they'll have not reached the ceiling. So we don't want our employees to feel stuck. We want to help them see what we see in them, in our employees themselves. We see opportunity with every employee that not only could they do better, but they can do better, and they can have a career that's worth talking about.
Yeah. So, I'm very interested in, how did COVID look for you? I know Florida took a little bit of a different approach, and we were relatively open most of the time, but what did that look like for you? Obviously, still people are staying home. I've heard that they're like, obviously, many businesses did get hurt from it, but it seems like some of the outdoor, service companies, kinda thrived during that. What did the COVID era look like for you guys?
Yeah, it was a little scary at first. We closed for about a week and then we immediately reopened. We really found that, people during these uncertain times turn to landscaping, turn to plants. And you notice, even like the edible side of things, like people wanting to do petri gardens and kind of getting into more of like, okay, how can I be more self-sustainable and things like that? So it's really cool to see kind of the transition of the public. For some reason, it did provide a lot of opportunity and growth. Well, not for some reason. We found there was a huge influx of people moving into Florida because the
Mhm.
restriction was heavy. So we found that there's a new massive market that was coming down, and buying homes. So it really kind of galvanized the business to a place of new growth and new opportunity. So it was a very good thing for us.
Yeah, and I can imagine those moving from another state into Florida are probably get a little bit of shock in terms of the whole plant situation here, obviously, the humidity, but I mean, things grow fast, and
Yeah.
it can probably be overwhelming, and I think, like, to what we've already talked about, you do such a good job of staying public, staying educational, whether it's on the news or whether it's on social media, so you can become a source of truth, somebody that those moving into an area can immediately trust. Even if they're not doing business with you tomorrow, it could be down the road, because, again, you're now already building that trust to so many people that you probably don't even fully see or realize. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so how do you approach that? I mean, are there any other channels? Like, what do you guys work through, in terms of, like, educating customers? I mean, obviously, I would imagine it's also in person too.
Yeah, for sure. In-person consultations are big. The fact that people can come into our nursery, ask questions, get guided in the right direction, that's huge. And really staying on top of things as far as our social media platform and educating that way also helps. And then obviously going on things like the Suncoast View, doing news segments to continue to educate and help guide people in the right direction. So all of that really just tells the tale of how we approach it and how we are able to execute with the public as a whole.
Yeah. Amazing. All right. So what's next? What's next for Choice Tropics? Do you have anything big in the pipeline? I mean, you are the expansion expert. So do you have anything exciting coming up?
Yeah, so right now we are continuing to try to work with out-of-county customers, provide, plant material in places that aren't really accessible by other people. We try to make things easy in the brokering business, being able to supply what we need. But essentially, we are working on building a moat and continuing to at our larger location where we do wholesale and retail, and our landscape central location is. We just want to continue to beautify the property, get it as organized and as beautiful as possible, and continuing to expand our services on our landscape division, really just solidifying relationships in the community and seeing how we can offer a scope of services where people we become a one-stop shop. We're able to really provide all the things that the customer needs for outdoor living.
So, Alex, you're very future focused, obviously on the company and the expansion, but I would love to know your thoughts on like the future generation and getting into horticulture. How would you talk to somebody that would be interested but also doesn't know where to start?
Sure. So someone that's interested and doesn't know where to start, I mean, the first thing is to get into the field. I mean, find a local nursery, find a local landscaping company, work for them, because there's nothing like experience that will help an individual grow. And, it's hard for someone without any landscape or nursery experience to start their own business. Oftentimes, you want to be in the action, you want to be in that type of field in order to kind of feel out how you can then take over and start your own business, start your own nursery. So I think it always starts with just getting into that field, feeling out all that that entails, and then taking the next steps accordingly to do something for yourself.
Amazing. So if somebody comes in to the nursery and they're interested, I mean, you say get a job or get started in that industry. What does an entry level job even look like in the horticulture field?
Yeah, so typically an entry level job, we bring in people without experience all the time. Number one, because we get a lot of applicants that have no prior experience. And number two, people that are interested in the field itself, we want to be able to provide and host an opportunity for them to get excited about. So, if we hire in a new person with no experience whatsoever, we basically put them under someone's wing with experience, see where their strengths and weaknesses are, and then we'll transition them either into sales or plant care, helping at the register, helping stocking, unloading, and loading customers, things like that. And then it's up to that individual to see where the other opportunities lie. When they are strong in certain areas, we try to recognize that and put people where their strengths are. And, it's been amazing. We've had many employees with zero experience end up making quite an opportunity for themselves just by dedication, integrity, and hard work.
So on the flip side of that coin, I know a lot of landscape companies do have a bit of a struggle finding qualified, not even qualified candidates, just candidates.
Yeah.
What do you guys do to help with recruitment?
We use Indeed a lot. So Indeed has been really, really good for us because it kind of connects us with people that are interested in that field or that have prior experience. Other than that, recruitment wise, we don't do a lot of recruiting besides just trying to use Indeed and that platform. We also cater to people where individuals come in and apply with us physically. So we're able to look over applications, see if there's opportunities there, and that's basically what we do as far as the hiring process.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's also important, and you mentioned it earlier, one of the ways I would imagine that people would even consider working with you is the way that you treat your employees, and making them feel not just seen and heard, but also, like, feel that there's a path forward, know that there is a future in the company. So how long, I mean, obviously, the business has been around for a while, do you have some pretty long tenured employees in-house?
We do. We have employees that have been with us for 20 plus years. I
Wow,
mean, yeah, it's amazing. It's not many of them, but it's some. It's some of our key players have been with us for years now. And it's incredible to see the growth that happens with individuals when they stick around long term. I mean, it's really rewarding to have people that are on your side that feel like family and we're able to all grow together. So that's been a very rewarding experience.
amazing. Okay, so I want to talk to you. You are obviously the expert that brought in such a massive component of Troy's Tropics with the landscaping side of things. So, speaking to somebody that's just getting started in the landscaping industry, I know it's obviously going to be a little bit different than the massive company that Troy's Tropics has now built. But if we can think back, what would be some of the most important advice in getting started? Maybe something to help with the discouraging moments, but where would you start if you just had to start all over?
If I had to start all over with like if I was just building my own landscape
Doing it
company,
yourself. Yeah, your company. Yeah. If you had to just give it a go, like, all right, we're gonna be doing this. I've never gotten started before. Let's do it.
sure. So the first place I would start is building a Facebook page. I think it's important and it's overlooked oftentimes.
Hmm.
Facebook is where you can start to reach other people, and we all have friends on Facebook. So you're able to start to create a page, share that page through your personal Facebook page, and starting there. Then the second step is making sure you have that truck or a vehicle that you can do this stuff with. So if we have and look, I even had there was one point where I had a Honda Civic and I was putting dead branches in the back seat of in the trunk of the Honda Civics. You know, you can create whatever it is you want if you had the drive and the willingness to take chances and take risks. I think going door to door, even though a lot of people don't like solicitors and stuff like that, is something that an individual could try. Because if you don't have a customer base, it's really just getting out there and putting your name out there so people can see who you are and what you're about. And, it's really just a step by step process, not making it complicated. It takes one job that you did really good at for the neighbors to notice. Then those neighbors start to reach out or ask that person, hey, who did your landscaping? Then that neighbor contacts you, and then it goes from there. Oftentimes a lot of the small landscape businesses we see is from word of mouth. I mean, you do a good job at one place, those people talk about it, and then those people's friends or neighbors start to contact you. So it kind of builds momentum from there. So not overdoing it, not making sure you're able to take the time with each and every customer, and then that's where you'll see the results play out from there.
Amazing. You are full of wisdom, and I'm sure anybody listening to that is really gonna appreciate it. It's great words of wisdom and also no excuses. If you can do it with a Honda Civic, you can do it with anything. So I love it. I love it. All right. Well, Alex, I would love it if we could just go ahead, tell us all about Troy's Tropics. Where are you guys at? What do you do? I want to hear the entire plug for the business. Go ahead.
All right, sounds good. So we're not only just a nursery, we're also a large landscape division. Our nursery entails about 14 acres in central Sarasota with two locations. We have a grow location. We specialize in bougainvilleas, annuals, fruit trees, small perennials. And then we have a large wholesale business that caters to commercial contractors and other nurseries. And then our landscape division. And then we also service the retail portion where we are able to have people walk in, shop, get what they need, and get out. And then our landscape division, we do full service irrigation, property management and maintenance. We do landscape design and installs. We do tear outs, even tree services, hardscaping, and drainage projects and lighting, landscape lighting. And so we have quite the moat that we're building around the business, and we're there to serve the community at large.
Amazing. Well, Alex, congratulations on what you've built and what you're continuing to build. We're going to go ahead and call that a wrap on this episode of the Mo Money, Mo Problems podcast. So, Alex, thank you so much for being here, sharing your wisdom. If you're watching this and you got something out of this episode, go ahead, do us a favor, share this with somebody else that you think might get something out of it. But thank you, everybody, for watching. Alex, thank you for being a guest. And until next time, let's keep growing, everyone.